Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read at 6:47 Art Accused, Chapter 7. The situation didn't look good. Everything still pointed to just one person, Arthur. Could he really be a criminal? Mastermind? I tried to picture him in his secret hideout, swimming in a sea of shiny quarter. It dripped through his fingers as he laughed insanely. Quarters, quarters. He could never get enough. Dinner at the Baxter house was quiet that evening. Mrs. Baxter was used to hearing Buster talk all about his day. But tonight Buster was quiet, too quiet. Are you feeling all right? His mother asked. Buster nodded. But you have only had 2 helpings of dessert. That's not like you. Buster, you sure you don't have a headache or fever? Buster shook his head. It is just this case, Mom. I haven't figured out how to help Arthur yet. You're a good friend, Buster. I'm sure Arthur appreciates that. I hope so. But right now, thought Buster, Arthur needs more than a good friend. He needs a good detective. Later, Buster sat at his desk, flipping through his pad. He was looking for clues. Any clues that would help him solve the case. He wasn't feeling picky either. Big clues, small clues, ragged round the edges clues. Buster would help. Happily accepted any of them. The phone rang. Buster, it's for you, was the brain. He wondered if Buster was having any luck. Not yet. Well, keep trying. If I think of anything, I'll call you back. A few minutes later, the phone rang again. This time it was Francine. Any progress? She asked. No, said Buster. Okay, keep me informed. He had barely put down the phone when it rang again. Now Murphy was on the line. It is too bad we can't buy clues, she said. That would make things so much easier. Buster agreed, but clues just weren't for sale. After that, the phone was quiet. Buster lay on his bed as a swallowed image. Mrs. McGrady, Mr. Morris, and Arthur passed by in his mind. They were all involved somehow. He just had to put the pieces of the puzzle together. Buster, it's getting late. I'm trying to crack the case. Well, you need just sleep, Mr. Detective. You're not a robot. You're right, I'm not a... Buster leapt to his feet. Robot? That's it, Mom. I love you. He went to the phone and dialed Arthur. Hello, said Arthur. Great news. Shouted Buster. I figured it out. Really? I figured it out. Really? Arthur got all excited. So tell me. Well, the quarters were stolen by an army of evil robots. They need the metal for fuel. Nobody noticed them because they can't transform themselves into any shape. Arthur sighed. That's it? That's a big breakthrough? Gosh, it sounded like a lot better a minute ago. You better get some sleep, said Arthur. Okay. You too, I'll try. Yeah, but if his only chance depended on finding an army of robots, he figured he was in for a long night. Chapter detectives are supposed to be tough, but even they feel the pain when a friend is hurting. And it was no different for me. I could tell from Arthur's eyes that he was not happy. Actually, I could tell from his mouth, the slump of his shoulders, even his ears. Arthur was a mess. Are you sure you want to be seen with me? Arthur asked on the way to school the next morning. Of course. People might begin to think you're my partner in crime. You could be my accomplice, my henchman, my... Arthur, stop. Listen, I would never desert you. I'm no rat living a sinking ship. Why, even if you went to jail, I would write you. I would come visit. Well, Buster realized this wasn't helping much anyway. He added, I'm really sorry you're going to miss the picnic today, and because I'm a bad detective. I know you are innocent. Arthur tried to smile. Thanks, Buster. I hate letting you down. If I just had a little more time, forget it. You did your best. You might be a lousy detective. Bad. Arthur, I said bad. All right. You might be a bad detective, but you are still a good friend. Buster and Arthur soon arrived at school. Buster got in line for the picnic bus with the other kids. Mr. Rappan motioned to Arthur. Sorry about this, Arthur. Me too, Mr. Rappan. His teacher nodded. Don't give up. I'm sure the truth will come out in the end. Arthur certainly hoped so. Children, Mr. Ennis shouted through the bullhorn. Please board the school bus now. Buster was standing with Pinky and the brain. They started to move forward. Poor Arthur, said the brain. A good lawyer could get him off. said Binky. They do it all the time. But Arthur is innocent, said Buster. I just don't know how to prove it. The answer's somewhere right in front of me. Hey, what's that? He pointed to Binky's shirt. Binky looked down. Powdered sugar? I guess I had a donut on the way to school. See, that's a clue. If this was a case of the missing donut, I would be all set. Buster frowned. I just can't think straight anymore. I know how you feel, said the brain. Sometimes when I'm working on a tough math problem, I feel like my brain is overflowing with data. Keep it moving, said Mr. Henney. Buster stepped onto the bus. Suddenly he stepped and stared at the brain. Overflowing, overflowing. I think the pressure got to him. The Binky whispered, that's it. He shook the brain's hand. That's it. What's it? Said the brain. Buster raced off the bus and almost ran into Mr. Henney. Hold on there, Buster. You're going the wrong way. Mr. Henney, I've solved the crime. Come on. Without waiting for an answer, he led the way into the school. Chapter 9. Every detective wants to be cool, calm, and collected at all times, and I was not different. But it's easier to say that while you're sitting back in your office with your feet up on the desk. It's another thing when you think you have saved your best friend from a fate worse than death. In the kitchen, Mrs. McGrady was packing up for the school picnic. She had the sandwiches, potato chips, and cartons of juice, all neatly organized on the counter. Just getting ready to cut the sheet of brownies into squares. When Buster rushed in, he was pulling Mr. Haney behind him. Slow down, Buster. We don't want to be arrested for speeding. Mrs. McGrady looked surprised. Buster? Mr. Haney, what are you doing here? Mr. Haney cleared his throat. Following up on a theory, go ahead, Buster. Mrs. McGrady, do you know why your brownie mix overflowed? Not really. I don't mind saying it was a little embarrassing, but Mr. Morris was very nice about helping me clean it up. Has that ever happened before, the overflowing? I mean, no, I'm always very careful, but this time I guess I made too much. Did you use a different recipe? Mrs. McGrady stopped to think. Well, no, now that you mention it, the recipe was the same as always. Did you use any new equipment? Mrs. McGrady laughed. Not on my budget. I'm lucky they give me electricity. Mr. Haney cleared his throat. Buster picked up a knife and cut a square out of the brownie pan. And yes, somehow, something happened. Something that had never happened before. Significant, don't you think? Mr. Haney folded his arm. Buster, make your point, please. The boss is waiting. Buster was getting to it, but detectives never rush their moments of glory. So you measured out the ingredients in the usual way, and you mixed them in the usual way. And yes, something unusual happened. Shall I tell you why? Mrs. McGrady smiled. Please do. It's because you accidentally included one extra ingredient. I did? Buster nodded. He picked up the brownie and broke it in two. A quarter fell out. Oh my, said Mrs. McGrady. How did that happen? It was Arthur. Buster explained. You were on the phone. When he came in, he thought you saw him, but you didn't. Then he left the bag of quarters next to the other ingredients. He had even spilled some of your flour on his bag, which is probably why you didn't notice. Mrs. McGrady broke open another brownie and two quarters fell out. So now we know the truth, said Mr. Henry. Arthur is innocent, Buster exclaimed. It's time to set him free. Chapter 10. What kind of detective fades back into the shadow once the case is solved? For that detective, solving with the mystery is its only word. It dodges the brass lights of the TV cameras and the front pages of the newspaper. The other kind of detective likes to take a bow to be recognized for doing a good work. He doesn't duck the well-deserved compliment. I could see both sides, and I understand that some detectives would be shy about taking credit for untangling things, but I wasn't one of them. Although Arthur was sitting in detention alone with his thoughts, at that particular moment, his thoughts were not very good company. The quarters were gone. Reputation was in question. Even if he was someday proved innocent, he was still going to miss the third grade picnic. He could hear Miss Tinkley typing in the next room. Clicking on the keyboard made Arthur think of cricket chirping. At least crickets were free to do what they wanted. They didn't have to worry about quarters or picnics or unexpected mystery. Suddenly Arthur heard another noise. This didn't sound like crickets at all. It sounded like a lot of people on the move. Miss Tingley heard it too. She stopped typing and got up to see What all the commotion was about was a lot of people. The whole third grade was coming down the hall. Students, the teachers, even the bus driver over there. What's going on? Stand back, Mr. Henny advised her. He opened the door to the room where Arthur was sitting. Justice is about to be served. Arthur, I did it, shouted Buster. You're free. Arthur stood up. I am? But how? We have solved the mystery of the missing quarter. They ended up in Mrs. McGrady's brownie. Really? Rapon, who smiled at him. They must be the richest brownie she has ever made, said the brain. Everyone laughed, and Sebasa, you owe it all to that great detective, that peerless investigator. Buster was cut off as Mr. Henny spoke into the bullhorn. Back to the bus, everyone, he ordered. The picnic awaits. As the kid went back outside, Arthur shook Buster's hand. Thanks, Buster. I'm almost speechless. You're the best detective I know. I'm the only detective you know. Well, yes, but just steal the bat. If you say so, I do. All right, he went on like that all the way. Out to the bus. I didn't try to stop him. Detective knows when to sit back and listen. The picnic was a big success. Later, though, Mrs. McCreary faced a new mystery. When a plate of cookies she had put aside suddenly disappeared, brushed a few crumbs off my shirt, joining the baseball game that was starting up. If Mrs. McCreary wanted to solve the mystery, she was going to have to do it on her own. The end.